Okay, back. I've got the guide with me this time, so I know which choices to make. Um, so what are we? An exercise about always saying yes to situation. As you saw, it can get a little crazy, no doubt. Okay, this is about improv. Choices I'd like that. We made that choice. So we'd best skip this because we've already seen this sequence. Playing ninja, cool. I think I should just load this one. The romantic tea ceremony. Let's see. Yeah, we took the macaron and we ate it. Then okay, that was to save it there. D&D. What's D&D? Oh no, that's too bad. I wanted to like do that part again with the whole D&D chase. Let's see how this goes. So last time I said I promise. I just like let him be. I should have been a little bit more assertive. I should have asked why. So let's do that. He sat back in frustration, putting pressure on my legs. Hana, please, it's something I don't want people to know about. Can we just leave it at that? No, if you're going to make me promise, I want to know why I'm signing up for this. Is it not enough that I want you to? No, who do you think you are? He groaned and fidgeted, almost like a small child denied candy. Fine, I'm embarrassed by it. By D&D? Yes! People, they don't just think it's lame, they think it's part of the occult. We're literally breaking school rules to play it. We're so nerdy. What's wrong with that? He tipped his head back in exasperation. Nothing! Not really, I just don't want people to know, okay? So promise me, please. I tried desperately to hide the amused smile growing on my face, but I failed. Fine, I promise. Alright. Thank you, Hana. I still don't see what the big deal is, though. D&D's always looked like fun to me. Wait! Really? Yeah, but I had no idea how to start playing. That's not the kind of thing you could jump into without someone more experienced, I think. Jared stared at me, completely taken aback. I didn't think it was that big a deal that someone would want to play D&D, but to Jared it was like the second coming. So, you'd want to play with us? I gasped.
Really?
Would you let me? Really? I mean, I'd have to ask the other guys, but that could be a thing. Jared, that would be so great! I grabbed his hands and jerked them up and down. Jared laughed. Yeah, well, I'll ask then. I guess that's that. Dang it. This has been a hell of a night, hasn't it? I'll say. We should head back. It's way too late to stay out. Okay. You dropped this too. He held up my math book, now wrinkled from sitting in the wet grass of the soccer field. Oh! That could have been a terrible accident, eh? We didn't think anyone would see us. At least it was you and not someone else. I nodded. That sounded more like the Jared I knew. Anyway, we should get back in. Two teenagers are in a relationship out in the field in the middle of the night would be hard to explain, even with the book. I guess we do. Let's see. Extra scene picker. Jared. We're already past this. Chapter 3, D&D. Chapter 4. Obligatory beach scene. Maybe we don't. Maybe we don't get to play it. I don't know. Maybe in the ending. Ooh. Immaculate. Worst end. Oh, that was not good. I chuckled and stood, my knees protesting. I would definitely be sore tomorrow. I hope you're not hurt. It's alright, I'm fine. He ran a hand through his hair. Smooth, eh? Man, the guy should see me now. Anyway, let's go. I'll walk you back. We walked to Primrose in silence, each of us wrapped in our own thoughts. It was clear Jared didn't want to talk about it anymore. The issue wasn't closed, but it was time to pull away and rethink what was happening. I headed into the dorm as Jared waved at me from behind. Once I was safely in the stairwell, he turned away, but didn't start walking back. I should just leave him alone. We should all play D&D together. That could actually be fun. I have never played D&D. But that could actually be fun. Yeah, maybe. Well, maybe. I don't have time for it right now for like a game of D&D, but maybe in the summer vacation, everything is possible. I climbed the stairs to my door, to my floor, desperately happy that I didn't run into anyone else on the way to my room. Then... Tell Mai about the promise. Oh shit! I want to stop skipping after a choice. She deserved the truth. Jared was my boyfriend and I made a promise to him. Should I keep it? As I looked at Mai on her bed, eyes shining, I couldn't leave her hanging. I can't tell you. Her face fell. I really wish I could, but I promised Jared I wouldn't. There's something he doesn't want anyone to find out. I wasn't even supposed to figure it out, but it was an accident, so... Mai held up her hand.
Really?
Stop talking. You're only making me more curious. Okay, we can skip this. Oh, that part. That weep shit. And yeah. So, here I made another mistake. I forgave him, but I should have been more assertive. I said, but still, like, Jared, you piece of shit. There's something you just can't do, apparently.
Well...
I understand, but still. I was really hurt. There was no excuse for your actions. I know. Jared hung his head, the picture of regret. He looked like a sad puppy. I felt bad about it, but I had to stand up for myself, right? That makes sense. Well, I guess as long as it doesn't happen again, there won't be a problem. I like you, Jared, as you are. You don't need to hide it from me. Jared offered me a weak smile. Thank you, Hana. I promise. I won't let it happen again. I nodded. The tension in the air hadn't eased any, but at least the problem was solved. Calvin ball. Alright. Anyway, we should start heading to class. Right. He dropped me off at the classroom and waved goodbye. Once inside, Mai nearly ran me over. What happened? Are you okay? Yeah, everything should be fine now. He apologized to me and seemed to really regret it. Mai nodded, but still looked somewhat put off. Something wrong? No, I mean, he apologized after all. But the odd look remained on her face as we headed to our seats. Tell me what's up, Mai. Don't lie. Okay, don't get mad at me, alright? I tend to look at people's actions to see what kind of people they are. Winged it. Making up rules as you go. Okay. That Jared did this to you right off the bat. Right after you started dating, it worries me. I don't think he's a bad guy, but still, he did throw you under the bus. I'm just saying. But if he really doesn't do it again, there's nothing to worry about. People can make mistakes. What's important is that he follows through on his words. Yeah. After our conversation, I trusted Jared. I thought he would follow through, even if Mai didn't. Mai really was a stickler when it came to guys in a relationship, wasn't she? As the rest of the class filtered in, and I watched Mai gazing out the window, one question pounded through my head. Why? Okay, now we can skip through this. Fear. We should go look. I won't fraternize with the enemy! One of my favorite scenes. I see how it is. Clever. Very clever. Not as clever as my plan, but you're still clever.
Bye.
I'll see you later then. He waved at me, then disappeared down the path. I waited a few moments, then began to follow him until... Psst! Psst! Psst, Hana! Who? A hand tugged at the back of my collar and eyes pulled into the bushes. What? A hand wrapped itself over my mouth, and someone whispered to me. Please be quiet, I can't let anyone see me like this. The voice sounded familiar. I ceased my struggling, and while it was out of sight, I was released. I turned and found, well... Jared! Hana, it's awful! My face! My beautiful face! I should never have bothered to come here in the first place. What happened? Are you allergic to something? Bees happened, Hana! Bees! Okay, I'll skip. Bees! Oh no, getting drunk. I'm drunk at a fashion show. It's too bad we have to skip through all of this. I remember that part. That was awesome. Oh, okay. We saw this part. That was earlier this stream. Bees? Then practice. Practice is the right thing to do. Shane? Let's see. Is everything still the same after this? Because we made the good choices this time.
Hey, what's up? No!
This is still entirely the same. So there's no reason to stop in between. That's really too bad. It's Deep Widow's Peak. Aww. And I take the phone. And this is kind of stupid, because according to this, right now I have to leave it be. Well, this is actually a problem that needs to be addressed. It definitely needs to be. And the problem is, earlier in the story, the game literally tells me, like, be more assertive. Like, the correct answer is to be more assertive, and now it isn't. Now I just had to leave him do it, what he wants to do, like what he's doing. I shook my head. Now wasn't the time. Okay. Okay. In fact, as I thought about it, maybe there would never be a time. I placed my hand on Jared's shoulder and then, after a moment, pulled him into a hug. His eyes grew wide, his body stiff, but eventually he put his arms around my shoulders. I didn't feel the need to say anything. In fact, nothing I said would have been able to communicate what I was feeling. More than anything, I wanted Jared to feel comfortable. I wanted him to feel safe. I guess, really, I wanted him to feel accepted. That is actually, now that I think about it, a smart way to get around that problem. But it's not, that's not called, like, ignoring it. That's not ignoring the problem, that's a different solution. Basically. It's like not here while you're relaxing. I can see that. I can see that. If he was going to be like that, maybe that was all I could do. Maybe I just had to accept it. Perhaps in time, his walls would come down on their own. There's a time and place for everything, but not now. As I lay my head on his chest, he slowly relaxed, eventually running a hand through my hair. I giggled at his touch, and he giggled in response. In no time, we were both laughing like maniacs. Ew, gross! Mai shouted from across the water at us. Too cute! Stop being gross! I stuck my tongue out at her. Jared flipped her off. Jared! Jared laughed and kissed my forehead. He did it like it was nothing, but I felt my face grow hot. Hot enough that I felt like the water in my hair would evaporate. Aww. You know, we'll have to go soon or we won't be back in time for curfew. Aw man, I don't wanna. I don't care if you wanna. You'll still have to do it. I yelled and doggy paddled my way to the shore. Mai swam up next to me, positively humming with happiness. Don't say it. Don't say it! You owe me an ice cream for this, with sprinkles! Fine, I'll buy you an ice cream sometime. Thanks, Mai.
You're my best friend, Anna.
Anything for my best friend. Race you to the shore. Mai and I raced to the shore as Jared tried to piggyback BBG through the water. Mai won, obviously. Next week at Asagao was peaceful and happy. Jared returned to Asagao and accepted the reprimand he received for skipping class with such a broad smile that his teacher couldn't even find it in him to dole out a punishment. For once, the misunderstandings between Jared and me seemed to vanish. We started avoiding normal boots during lunch, and instead we ate together out on the field, having private little picnics to ourselves. We laughed together, we talked before class, and we spent time after class. I saw less and less of Mai, but I always gave her a brief update when I got back to our dorm. I worried that she would feel lonely, but as the days passed, she seemed to only get happier and happier. I often saw her at her desk, writing something and grinning like a madman, but I couldn't tell what. Even with the tournament that weekend, I was too worried. I wasn't too worried. I felt like I could handle anything, come win or come lose. I still wanted to join the Normal Boots Club, but I wasn't desperate to like I was before. I chuckled softly to myself, and as I finished outlining Jared's most recent dungeon onto his large grid map. Cool. Beebs. Jared wasn't as artistically inclined as I was, so he asked me to help out with his dungeon mastering every now and then, explaining to me how the game worked and reenacting their adventures in live form. Basically, we made all the right choices this time. I skipped through the story, made the right choices, and now we're at a part that is different. I hope that eventually he would feel comfortable enough to have me join an actual campaign. This time, however, I didn't think I would hear another story. Jared shut the door behind him, having returned from going to get the mail, and walked slowly to his seat, reading and rereading something in his hands. He looked pale, and I set down my marker as he collapsed into his chair. Jared, is something wrong? He held up an ornate piece of paper, lined with the intricate gold engravings. It reminded me a bit of the letter I had received asking me for my presence at the tea ceremony. The Nadeshiko family cordially invites you to... His voice caught in his throat. He put his head in his hands. Why didn't I see this coming? What? What is it? I snatched the letter from his hands. The Nadeshiko family cordially invites you to our yearly public tea ceremony and arts exhibition. Below the ornate script, where clearly another message was supposed to go, was a jerky and angular scrawl. We request the presence of Jared Knabenbauer and his significant other to a special performance, demonstrating the suitability and elegance of the future of the Nadeshiko family. Significant other was indented into the paper as though someone, for some reason, tried to kill the paper with those words. Well, that's not too bad, right? Oh no, you don't understand. She wants to humiliate you. She wants to show you exactly how out of your league you are.
Seriously?
That's okay. I don't mind if I make a fool of myself. I mean, I'll suck in a moment for sure. It'll suck in the moment for sure, but what do I care what those people think about me? You don't get it. Even if you don't care, I do. If you're going with me, you're going to have to practice. I'll have to drill you on the basics, and maybe, by the grace of Thor, you won't completely embarrass yourself or me. I clamped my mouth shut, stunned. An embarrassment to you? Really? The only way you can go is if you practice, and you will, won't you? And now I have another choice. While last time it gave me the worst end. I have to disagree. I should have just made the choice myself, but I have to disagree. Which makes sense. Jared, you've got to stop this! You can't live under your mother's thumb forever. You have to stand up for yourself. Jared's eyes darkened. Don't you dare talk about my mother. I froze. You don't know a thing about her or about me. You can't tell me what to do or how I should live. Do you understand? Jared. Tears pricked my eyes and Jared ran a hand through his hair. Look, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have... But my mother is still my mother, all right. She loves me and I love her. Your shoulder blade decided to cramp like hell. Ah. I want to do what I can to make her proud, even if, no, especially if I can't give her everything she wants. He put his head in his hands again. I shouldn't have snapped at you. I thought you knew me better than that, but maybe that was unreasonable of me. You're only human. I took a deep breath, trying very hard to put it past me. Holding on to it wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't help us out or the situation. Instead, I put my hands on his shoulders. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking about it that way. Jared sighed again, but reached up and held my hand. Thank you. It's just... I know I could just not take you with me, but I don't want... I know I could just not take you with me, but I don't want to do that. I'm proud of you, and I'm happy to be dating you. I don't want to pretend like I'm not, even if that might be the safer route in the long run. Jared. I leaned down to hug him, suddenly filled with warmth.
Yeah.
I'll do it if you really want me to. I'll do my very best. Will you? He pulled away from me to look me full in the face. I stared back at him and nodded. So in the end, I still practice. I don't like that. Don't like that. Jared smiled at me, but his smile was brief. Okay, we're going to do this. We have to start now. The ceremony is the day after the tournament, so...
What?
What? That's so soon? He nodded. Clearly she planned it this way. He ran a hand through his hair.
All right.
So to work. All right, you're going to have to control your movements. Jared drilled me on tea ceremony protocol deep into the night, trying to condition my body to have a sense of grace and poise. It was slow going, but by the end of the night we both thought maybe we had a chance. Maybe. Let's see. Oh, we already have 30 tournament points. Yay! So this is going to be the best end. Yeah, definitely. Oh, dear diary. Jared and I have been practicing literally every hour of the past 3 days. It's to the point where I feel like it's almost detrimental. The lack of sleep and constant drilling might be making the lessons stick less in my head than if we would just worked as usual. And now you have the tournament, and I haven't had the time to practice. I haven't been stressed like this in a while, but I feel like I'm dying. I haven't been this stressed in a while, but I feel like I'm dying. Okay. Yeah, me too. Jared and I practiced what we could for the tea ceremony right up until the day of the tournament. I woke that morning groggy and nauseous. I spent so much time worrying about my relationship with Jared that I hardly practiced. Even now, when I spent the entire night after the tea ceremony feverishly battling strangers online, I felt horribly guilty. The tournament, how would things go? Would I really be able to beat Ian? I had to if I wanted to join the Normal Boots Club. With these thoughts in my mind, I changed into my Asagao uniform and crept out of the room. It was early Saturday morning, and Mai had come home even later than me. I wanted to let her sleep. I stepped out into the fresh spring air, taking a deep breath. My event was one of the first, so I had to be there earlier than most. I set my shoulders and started across campus. The arcade at which the tournament was being held was much smaller than I expected. Okay, we have had this part before, but I'm still going to narrate it all, because it's cool. I love this part. I felt like I'd find some kind of convention, but instead it was a small local arcade filled with machines. Smaller rooms split off, which were probably where the individual competitions would take place throughout the day. Wink, wink, wink. A few people milled about the space, generally older folk in their 20s and 30s. I glanced at the agenda in my hand and made my way to one of the back rooms. When I entered the competition room, I found 2 chairs on an elevated platform, a computer and a projector sitting between them and hooked up to separate controllers. Ian sat in one of the chairs, looking bored out of his mind. Ian! Hey. It's about time you showed up. I was starting to get worried that you died. Aw, it's sweet of you to be concerned. Is it? Yeah. I got into the chair next to him. A man came over to me to check my name and club affiliation. I said I was a member of the Normal Boots Club. A small surge of pride made me sit up straight as I did. There were chairs lined up for people to watch us compete. And to my surprise, the entire room soon filled. I searched the crowd to find the guys. There they were! Everyone but Jared and Paul. Where were they? As I stared worriedly into the crowd, a blur of movement caught my eye. Jimmy was sitting in a chair on the edge with the rest of the Hidden Block Club beaming at me. When he saw me looking, he raised his eyebrows. Ian rolled his eyes. Really? Would it kill you to root for your own teammate? Still love the Comic Sans. Yeah, me too. I giggled. Finally, the lights around us dimmed and the projector started up, showing the main menu of Dumpy Doom's Revenge on screen. It was time to start. As the MC began his introduction and explained the rules of the game, Ian turned to me, a smirk on his face. Sure you're ready for this?
Yeah.
You bet I am! Ready to go? The man turned to us. Ian and I nodded. Then, 3, 2, 1, start! The game began. I immediately clicked to fill my screen with 2 more lines of blocks. Ian began working with what he had. I scanned the blocks for pink hearts, eliminating them one by one, making combos where I could. I still wasn't advanced enough to plan tons of combos ahead of time, but I could make it much more likely for combos to happen through probability. The pinks were all but gone, green leaves were next. Dummy Doom started flipping at the top of the screen. Ian must be comboing, which meant I had a few seconds before those blocks would fall. I set up a combo on top of the screen and started eliminating the orange blocks below it. Then it happened. The 6 combo jumped out at me from on the screen. My eyes crossed as I stared at it in shock. I just had to move the top block over one space. Then, as quickly as I saw it, it vanished. The blocks looked normal again. You're dead! As Ian's blocks fell... His look. As Ian's blocks fell upon my humble kingdom, I slipped the combo into place. 2, 3, 4 combo, 5 combo, 6 combo, 7 combo, 8 combo! Ian's attack converted into blocks and hovered above mine. I set up several more combos and waited for them to fall. 10 combo, legendary! Dummy Doom started farting out rainbows over Ian's zone, and then... blocks, so many blocks, they didn't come in a chunk, they came in a torrential downpour, all over Ian's side, sliding from left to right and back again. Ian blinked, his hands and eyes moving frantically over the screen. I wasn't sure he had ever seen something like that before. I sure haven't. I continued to combo while this was happening, but at this point there was no need. Ian's screen filled up, he kept trying to make combos until the very end, but... game over. That was it. I won. I stared dumbfounded at the screen in front of me. Ian's mouth hung open. The room was silent. Then... yeah, Hana! Oh, yeah. I knew you could do it! I glanced up to see the room applauding. All of it, even the Hidden Block Club. The announcer was gaping at the screen. I've never seen a score that high! Certain I was red as a tomato. I stood to climb out down off the platform. Not so fast. Ian stepped in front of me, grim as always. I braced myself for his infamous sarcasm. But to my surprise, he laughed. That was a hell of a game, Hana. That's exactly what I wanted from you. He held a hand in the air, and I looked at it in confusion. Don't leave me hanging.
Yeah.
Oh! I high-fived him, and he clasped my hand in his. Thanks, Hana. That was fun. Then he disappeared into the pressing crowd. I wiggled my way through all of the people, eager to find Jared. I looked for his head above the rest of the crowd, but I couldn't see him anywhere.
Hey!
Hana, there you are. Ready to get your groove on? He wiggled in front of me, stomach wriggling like a worm. Have you seen Jared? Actually, I saw him talking with Paul out front. He seemed upset. Is everything okay? I left Wallet where he stood, sprinting for the front door. I dashed outside the arcade, searching frantically along the strip in front of it. A flash of green caught my eye, and I sprinted towards it. I jammed myself between Jared and Paul, arms outstretched. You have no reason to be mean to him. He's here for the tournament. He's one of us. By now you should have... A hand settled on my shoulder, and I turned. Oh no, you don't need to worry. Paul was just apologizing. I looked at Jared in confusion and whirled back around to face Paul, who smiled sheepishly at me. You were? Kind of. Jared cleared his throat.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I was definitely apologizing. Sorry, man. I looked from Paul to Jared and back. Apologies don't generally take 20 minutes. Neither of you were there to see my event. Jared's eyes grew wide and he smacked himself in the forehead.
What?
Oh man, your event was first! I thought so! I'm sorry, Hana, I should have been there. We should have been there. Jared grimaced at Paul, who made a face back. Are either of you going to explain what's going on here? Paul shook his head with a sigh. Politics, Hana. How did your event go?
Yay!
Oh yeah, I won! I started bouncing up and down, pulling on Jared's hand. Can you believe it? I won! I never thought I'd win!
Nice.
Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Hana.
Yeah.
Congratulations! I'm truly glad to hear that. I beamed at both of them. Jared patted the top of my bow, and I grabbed his hand to hold it instead. Paul cleared his throat. Jared, your competition is up soon, isn't it? Yeah, it'll be starting in a few minutes.
Alright.
I wish you luck then. Paul headed back into the arcade, presumably to give us some privacy. Jared smiled down at me. Ready to see some mad skills? I'm more than ready. I headed inside. Jared pulled me through the crowd and into a small room at the back. Wallet stood in front of a large projector screen and a console, being scanned by some object. His figure appeared on the projector in front of us, mirroring his movements with only a slight lag. So, Jared's up against Wallet with DDR. I moved to the edge of the room as Jared joined Wallet out on the dance floor.
Hey.
Ready to get your butt kicked, Jared? By the meme master? Get real. You have never seen moves like that, like what I got. We'll see about that. As the tournament staff finished setting up, the room filled with more and more people. Soon it became ridiculously hot and incredibly crowded, and I was shunted into a corner. It was only through sheer audacity that I managed to maintain a window. Several middle-aged women came and stood next to me, wielding large cutouts of Jared's face. Apparently his popularity extended beyond Asagao. Jared stretched in front of the projector, his every move causing small gasps from the crowd. Oh, there were 3. Okay. All right, we're about ready. Would Wallet of the Hillen Block please take the stage first? Of course I will. Okay, so it's a stage? I thought it was DDR. Jared stepped off the stage and Wallet took his turn under the lights. The song selection has been decided pre-match by the tournament staff. It's a karaoke version of Pacific Drive. At his words, Jared's face lit up. Wallet turned pale. This wouldn't be the same Pacific Drive by the super famous, popular, and incredibly talented idol Gorlub. Would it? What is it a reference to? That's the one! Perfect. I frowned while I was acting like he just received a death sentence, but this song should be different from any other. He held up a hand to the console and drew it to the right, starting the song. As the music started, my eyes widened. Hadn't I heard this somewhere before? Jared caught my eyes from across the floor and grinned. I had. It was Jared's modeling music. Here goes nothing. To my enormous surprise, a large portion of the audience started cheering. No, not just cheering, hyperventilating. They were nondescript girls, probably teenagers, and they weren't holding any Hidden Block or Noble Boots fan gear. But the way they were cheering, it was as if they were seeing their favorite celebrity in the flesh for the first time. Wallet started moving to the music, and I was taken aback. He was surprisingly agile, and even more surprisingly precise. His movements looked as though not only had this specific routine been practiced dozens of times, but he'd had help from an actual dance teacher. Was that even fair? I glanced across the floor to Jared, who was watching my face with a slightly peeved expression. Yeah, I think it's like, it's definitely not DDR now. Yeah, a Kinect dance game would make sense, yeah. DDR would have been better, definitely. I glanced across the floor to Jared, who was watching my face with a slightly peeved expression. He looked at Wallet and turned his head with a huff, as if saying Wallet was nothing to compare to him. I smirked. Jealous, were we? But then something strange happened. Rather than follow the choreography of the song, Wallet started doing different moves. The girls in the back of the room screamed even louder, but his score was going down. Wallet, what are you doing? Jamie screamed at him from across the room, practically having a conniption. Wallet realized his mistake, but it was too late. His score had taken a huge hit. You gotta be kidding me! Wii U dance. There's no Wii U dance. The song finally ended, and Wallet's score was totaled 860,400. He'd taken a 140,000 hit. Jamie hype. Wait. The next contestant, Jared from the Normal Boots Club. Maybe some kind of just dance game, yeah. While it jogged off the stage as Jared, arms held high like a gladiator in the arena, stepped on stage. The crowd gathered, screamed a lot, so loud, I actually saw my vision shudder. Thank you all, my lovely fans, for coming to see me. Each and every one of you is near and dear to my heart. He blew a kiss at the crowd and winked, then turned to look at me. He kissed his fingers and held them out as if pressing them against my lips. Even though I stood on the other side of the room, I flushed. and he turned to face the machine, moving his hand to the right. As the music started to play, I noticed something odd in the way Jared was facing the screen. He didn't look like he usually did when he was focused. Not like he did when he was practicing or studying or writing new D&D campaign scenarios. His gaze was less sharp, and he seemed more focused on what was around him than the actual screen. Oh no. His walls were up. He was more focused on putting on a good performance than on winning. As the dance started, Jared swirled and spun, moving his hips with passionate fervor. As the crowd screamed and swooned, I watched his score. It was moving slowly upwards, but not as fast as Wallet had. Wallet, watching on the side, seemed to realize this too. A small grin spread across his face. No! No! What do I do? Jared's movements weren't as precise. He was having a harder time controlling them in his effort to wow the crowd. It was nearly to the midpoint of the song. I had to do something. An idea struck me. Excuse me! I dove through the crowd, pushing and shoving without giving a single care who I hit or whether I was being rude. Just outside the room, I found Paul, anxiously trying to get a glimpse of Jared. Hana, what's wrong? Come with me, please. I grabbed his hand without waiting for a reply and pulled him into the room, shoving him back through the crowd. This time they saw me coming and quickly moved out of the way. You didn't really make up with Jared, did you? Well, if he's really your friend, cheer him on. Please snap him out of it. You're the only one who can do it. What are you talking about? Snap him out of what? Just do it! I pushed him to the front of the crowd where Paul stood in a confused daze. In slow motion, his hands raced to the cup of his mouth. Jared! I'm here for you no matter what! So, please continue! Jared faltered in the middle of one of his moves, shooting a quick look at Paul. Paul gave him a thumbs up and Jared's face softened. Jared, the game! He turned to... Just do it! I'm sorry. He turned to the screen, a familiar steely glint in his eye. Sorry. The crowd acclaimed as suddenly Jared's movements became precise and intricate. He mimicked the movements on the screen as if he were a robot, replicating them with such precision that I almost felt like I was watching a pre-recorded video. The score suddenly doubled its rising speed, slowly tipping it over 650,000, 700,000. Jared struck a finish pose, and the song faded from the room. Paul and I watched breathlessly as the game tallied his final score. Slowly the numbers trickled onto the screen. You are dead now. Sorry. 890,600. Yay! Jared, you did it! My screams were lost in the cheers of the crowd. Jared raised his arms up and sprinted around the edge of the stage, finally reaching Paul and I. He fist-bumped Paul and pulled him into a quick bro hug, then he turned to me. It's not over 9,000. Thank you, Hana. He pulled me into a bear hug, and this time I was too happy to pull away. We spent our time wandering around the arcade and playing random games after that. Yeah, that is true. It is over 9,000. Technically, it is. Jared showed me a bunch of weird games I never would have played had he not pointed them out, talking about how they were integral to his childhood. As the rest of the guys shifted in and out of their events, successes and failures intermingled. It wasn't until the MC took the stage that we discovered who won. The winner of the 2015 Southwest Tournament is... the Normal Boots Club! Yes! I screamed and clapped as we swarmed on stage. The poor MC didn't know what hit him. As he celebrated on stage, Paul grabbed the microphone.
All right.
I would like to take this moment to thank the fans, our families, but most of all, Paul turned to Jared, our friends. To thank our friends for sticking with us and seeing the best in us, even when we make terrible asses of ourselves. Anything to make a reference work. Jared laughed and clapped Paul on the back, then pointed at me. Oh, right! We also have an announcement to make. As of today, we officially have a new addition to the Normal Boots Club. Please welcome Hana Mizuno. Jared went to the edge of the stage and pulled out a normal boots jacket in exactly my size. He hung it around my shoulders, gently pushing me to the front of the stage.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Hana! He smiled at me and stepped away. Paul handed me the microphone, and for the first time, I had a spotlight of my own. Thank you all so much. I'll do my very best. I'll promise. Not knowing what else to do, I bowed deeply, deep enough that my hair tickled the floor. PBG pulled me up and pointed into the crowd. There, an excited Mai jumped up and down, waving at us. I beamed back at her. I did it, Mai! My voice boomed across the room, and I realized I still had the microphone in my head. Utterly embarrassed, I handed it back to Paul. Eventually, we had to get off the stage. And when we did, I waded through the crowd to get to Mai. As soon as she saw me, she tackled me nearly to the ground. I knew you could do it! Thank you, Mai.
Yeah.
We have to do something to celebrate. You, PBG, Jared, and I should go see a movie or something. That new Star Wars is out, and it's really good. Yeah, we should. A hand placed itself on my shoulder, and I turned to see Jared shaking his head sadly. As much as I would love to go, Hana, Hana and I have something to attend to. We're people next to the speakers. I need to figure out a way to, like, dynamically compress my mic's audio, because this is indeed not a good thing. I'm sorry, guys. I met his eyes and remembered, right, I had to practice for the ceremony. We won. I had to practice for the ceremony. But I haven't seen you like at all this week. I was really looking forward to it. I'm sorry, Mai, but it's really important. I'll explain everything to you once it's over. Your headphones in ears now. Sorry, Sajids. Mai frowned. Fine. You should still go with PBG, though. I'm sure he'd enjoy that. Mai and Jared exchanged looks, like they passed a secret letter between them. Mai smirked. If you say so. She disappeared into the crowd, heading into the direction of the messy brow mop with hair sticking out above the rest. Sorry, Hana. No, it's okay. It's important. We can celebrate later, right? Right. And I promise we will. I smiled and nodded. In that case, let's get practicing. Jared and I sat on the train, chugging slowly towards the city. I had my full yokata on. Jared told me he didn't believe his mom would leave a room for me to change in. So just another way to sabotage me. In my lap I set a small satchel, the same one Mai had used when she kidnapped Jared and me and took us to the beach. My regular Asagao uniform was in there, along with my normal boots club jacket. I didn't need it, but having it with me gave me a surge of pride and hope. If I could do that, I could do anything. There's nothing much we wanted to say to each other. Nothing much we could say to each other. I knew what was going on in Jared's mind. A blind flurry of panic, anxiety, and guilt. Throughout my lessons, he profusely apologized for having me put into the position where I had to do something like this. No matter how I tried to assure him that I didn't care, that it was worth it for him, he couldn't let it go. And any time my eyes drooped or I yawned, if my stomach growled or my mind wandered, I saw the same look of guilt across his face. Now he sat, chin in his hand, watching as the train slowly pulled into the station. He drew the rough fabric together in my fists. It was time to meet Jared's mother. When we stepped out of the station, Jared flagged down a taxi. We had to drive for a solid 30 minutes through the city streets and then into something like the countryside. Slowly we rose into the mountains before finally the taxi driver dropped us off at the beginning of the cobblestone path. Jared paid the tab without even blinking, and I shook my head. What I could do with that money, what my father could do with that money. Jared took my hand as we wandered down the path, until finally he sighed. There it is, home. An elegant Japanese-style building rose out of the forests, built in what looked like a natural clearing. clearing. The path led right up to the door, and Jared helped me up the steps, apologizing for forcing me to wear such a restrictive piece of clothing. You ready? I nodded, my mouth suddenly dry. I was not ready. He pulled open the screen door and led me quietly into the room. There, waiting in front of a large open room, stood the woman who could only be Jared's mother. She smiled as she saw Jared walk in, and then she saw me. She glanced at my yukata and the smile slid out of her face. I see you came prepared. I shouldn't have expected less from my Jared. It's nice to meet you. I'm Hana Mizuno. I hope... Spare me the pleasantries. I don't plan on maintaining your acquaintance. Her words stung, but I tried as hard as I could not to let it show. Despite everything I knew about Jared's mother, a small part of me had hoped she would somehow, for some reason, change her mind. Oh. Jared's face fell too, and I knew he had entertained the same hope. Since you're prepared, you won't mind giving a demonstration to our guests gathered here? She stretched an arm out behind her, and for the first time I saw a small crowd of older adults lining the walls in the back of the room. My heart thudded against my chest as I glanced across the faces. I knew these people. I'd seen these people in my mother's magazines, on cards that came with the pottery she bought. She'd call me into the room and to show me her latest finds, and tell me how one day, if at all possible, she'd love to meet Mr. Sato or Miss Sakura. And now they stood in front of me, flesh and blood, exacting looks roaming up and down my person. I straightened, suddenly panicked. I heard Jared softly curse under his breath. Dang it. Jared's mother does not deserve the sparkles. No, she does not. But they're inherited, so she can't do anything about them. You're running late. You've wasted their time. I do hope this will make up for it. I looked fearfully at Jared, but he just shook his head. His mother had purposely given us the wrong time. There was nothing I could do. Jared walked to the back of the room and took a seat with the rest of the observers. And Jared's mother led me to the center of the room and the equipment that sat out in front of her. As I sat opposite from her, careful to the first bow, and showed proper respect to her, I started to gain a bit of confidence. She might try to mess me up, but I had practiced. I was prepared. I pulled out the equipment that I'd be using, and my heart stopped. I tried very hard to maintain a calm, serene expression, and dared a glance at Jared. He was pale as a sheet. The equipment sitting in front of me, some of it looked familiar, but others looked like something I'd never seen before. Even the tea was different. Instead of the matcha I used with Jared, there were actual tea leaves. My hands started to sweat, then to shake. I didn't know what I was supposed to do for the first step. I didn't understand. I practiced for hours every day. I knew what I was doing. I knew how to perform a basic oban to my flawlessly, and yet Jared's mother expected me to be at another level, at some kind of master level. My hands fell into my lap. I hung my head. There was a rustling amongst the people watching. I dared to glance at Jared's mother, fearful of the anger I would find there. She wasn't angry. She was smiling. I felt a gentle hand placed itself on my back, and Jared was squatting next to me. Take my seat. Don't worry. I nodded, tears pricking in my eyes. I failed. We failed. I stood and bowed, then took Jared's place at the back of the room, not making eye contact with anyone. Jared resumed from where I left off, if you could call it that. serving the tea elegantly and with flawless poise, as if this was what he intended to happen all along. He showed his mother the proper respect, despite what she did to us. I wasn't sure whether I was proud of him or angry at him. Finally, the ceremony ended. As the guests stood to mingle, Jared instantly came to my side. Come on, let's go change. He took me out of the room and over to a different area. My room's in there. Let me know when you're done. I nodded sadly, heading into the room, but he caught my arm. Hey, there was nothing you could do. I had hoped she actually meant to give you a chance, but I should have known better. There was no way you could have prepared for what she threw at you. That was a special form of ceremony, a tradition found by the Nadeshiko family, and only taught to our most loyal students and faithful supporters. There was no chance from the beginning. I wasn't sure whether he said that was supposed to make me feel better or worse, but I definitely felt worse. We're going to have dinner with her after the guests leave. Just try to be yourself. I'm sure she'll understand. He said that, but I could tell by the look on his face that he didn't believe it at all. I nodded and stepped into the room. Cue my voice clip. The room was almost completely bare. There was a small cushion mattress, presumably Jared's bed, and a few books in a single tier shelf along the back wall. Other than that, nothing. I changed my clothes quickly. The room felt odd, almost hostile. I didn't feel comfortable here, not one bit. I emerged from the room, my yukata and jacket in my bag. Jared, was that really your room? Full of childhood memories, isn't it? I was too busy studying to have much fun. At least, that was what my mom told me when I complained. Jared. I stroked his face, how much he had suffered from it under his mother. He never seemed to want to talk about it or give me details, but if this was anything to go off of... Jared took my hand away from his face, rubbing the back with his thumb. Not here, I'm sorry. I didn't like this one bit. I wanted to stop apologizing, wanted him to stop looking at me with that sorry expression. I wanted to get this dinner over with. By the time we dared to enter the room again, Jared's mother was seated at the table. The guests had gone. It's about time he showed up. Jared frowned, but gently guided me into one of the seats opposite his mother. He bowed politely and sat down, at which point she clapped her hands and a servant, a worker or a chef of some kind, brought in the food and scurried out. Picked up our chopsticks, but Jared waited as his mother picked food from the plate. I followed suit, watching her pick the best pieces of cooked beef, the juiciest looking vegetables for her plate. Whoops. It wasn't a fancy meal. She clearly saw no point in pleasing us. When she finished, we served ourselves, and we quietly began to eat. I tried to be as polite as I could, but all the table manners my father and mother ever taught me ringing through my skull. There was no way I could match Jared or his mother. I hadn't expected anyone to exude more grace and flawlessness than Jared, but now that I saw his mother, I realized I was wrong. She was fluid, almost like a river, but for every calm dance-like movement, I could sense the ferocity of a raging waterfall. She was absolutely immaculate, her makeup drawn on as if by a professional artist. Her clothes wrinkle-free, looking almost like they were on a store mannequin. Not a single movement was wasted, not a single bit of effort expended that didn't have to be. She was exacting, she was ferocious, she was flawless, she was cold. I turned my eyes to my bowl. It had been 5 straight minutes, and not a single sentence was spoken. I glanced at Jared, and saw his lips pressed tightly together. I wondered whether he ever spoke to his mother first, whether he was even allowed to. Sure. When Jared's mother broke the silence, I almost jumped. So harsh was the change. So I have an alcoholic for a son, do I? Jared swallowed hard, but he kept his eyes on his plate. Not only an alcoholic, but a delinquent, a bore, someone who skips class, and, on top of that, doesn't fulfill his obligations. Someone who makes vast promises to the populace, but fails to deliver on them. Someone who begged me for years to let him have a hobby. And when we finally set on a mutually beneficial agreement, someone who falls through his biggest moment. In his biggest moment, mutually beneficial. mutually beneficial. Was she talking about modeling? Jared refused to speak, but I saw his eyes glaze over and his movements become robotic. He was withdrawing again. Now I understood where it came from. I told your good-for-nothing father that having a child would be unwise. But you know your father, ever ambitious, ever loving, ever over-promising, and here we are. You fucking bitch! I shouldn't have listened to him. My eyes grew wide, my mouth dry. I set my food down and took a drink of water. This was Jared's mother. This was who he grew up with, who he returned home to every day as a child. This was supposed to be a sanctuary from the threats of the outside world. I shook my head. No. The outside world was probably his sanctuary from here. I don't think Jared is necessarily narcissistic. I think that is because of his upbringing. And you, her gaze shifted to me, looking me in the eyes for the first time, and goosebumps rippled across my skin. Don't think I haven't heard of you. When I heard my darling Jared was dating someone, I looked into your history. You, a poverty-stricken girl, a motherless girl, a homewrecker, another delinquent. How did she know those things? Oh, that's... Oh, God. That's awful. How did she know those things about me? Are you okay? Yeah. His mum is the narcissist. I want to glance at Jared to see how he took what she was saying. I hadn't told him about my past, hadn't had a chance to explain what happened to me or why I came to Asagao. I kept those things to myself, wanted to leave them in the past, but now, and in the worst way. Don't think I don't see through you. What do you want? Money? Status? Fame? I make sure you don't get a single drop. I make sure you and your worthless father return to exactly where you came from. And certainly that's where you deserve to be. Oh god, lol, Jared's an abused child, not a narcissist. Yeah. So, yeah, that's... Okay. This is certainly really rough. I want to speak up. I wanted to say something to her, but her very presence coated the room like a fog. And I didn't want to make it worse for Jared. Whatever happened here, I could go home and never see her again. Jared had to return when vacation started. My anger and horror quickly returned to frustration, and frustration quickly turned into tears. Horrified, I tried to blink them back, but that only seemed to make it worse. The first tear trickled down my cheek. Jared's mom beamed. And now you're crying. My, what a fragile girl. Have you no redeeming qualities? Jared slammed his chopstick down on the table. His mother and I both jumped, turning to stare at him in utter shock. His mother looked as though he just slapped her across the face. I am sick of this! Damn it, I pressed the save button. Jared Knabenbauer, you listen to me. No, mother, you listen to me. I have put up with you for 17 straight, horribly awful, painful, joyous years of my life. I begged and begged for you to grant me an ounce of happiness or sunshine every day, and you rejected me in favor of your own selfish greed and pointless ambition, all intended to hide your pathetic sense of loneliness and abandonment. I have finally found someone who makes me happy, someone who showed me that I was still worth a damn even if I wasn't perfect, someone who showed me that everything you taught me throughout my life was wrong. And I will be damned straight to hell if you think I'm going to let you take her away from me. I stared at Jared in awe, sparks practically flying from him. His mother gaped him like a dying fish. As he looked at her face, his anger seemed to fade slightly. The way you want me to live is painful. It's claustrophobic. I'm sorry. I know what you want from me, and I know what you have sacrificed to get me there. But I won't live like that anymore, no matter what you try to do. Oh, that's terrible. Guys, awful parent stories. This is awful. Disowned you at 18? What? That's... Jeez. Wow. That's... I'll just continue. I'm not perfect and neither are you, and there's a strong chance Dad's family won't recognize you no matter what you do. No matter what you do. You just accept it. You'll be happier that way. He hesitated. His mother watched him like a wounded animal, scanning his every move for hidden motives. What should be most important is how we feel about ourselves, not how other people see us. That broke the spell. Jared's mother folded her hands on the top of the table, resuming her flawlessly cold exterior. Get out of this house! Jared bit his lip and stood. I stumbled to my feet after him, and we bowed quickly to his mother before heading for the door. Don't come back until you understand how to behave properly. Do you understand me? Until then, you might as well not have a home. Jared opened the door and ushered me out, pausing before closing it. Goodbye, Mom. I love you. Then he shut the door. Jared. I tried to approach him, but instead he shook his head, leading me back up the trail to the road. He took my hand in his, and with the other pulled out his cell phone and called for a cab. And that was done, we walked in a steady silence. Jared, I'm sorry. Jared stopped walking. What are you sorry for? I'm sorry that I messed up, and I'm sorry that your mother hates me, and I'm sorry that I never told you about my past. I'm sorry for everything. My turn and pulled me into a hug. Please don't apologize, Hana.
You're perfect.
You're worth it to me. Please don't let my mother get into your head. I looked into his eyes and nodded. Okay, I won't. He smiled and kissed me gently, ever so gently, on the forehead. Thank you, my Hana, for everything. Slowly we began the long trip back to Asagao. The drive up to the train station was long and slow. Traffic filled the streets as we were leaving at rush hour, and the driver filled the empty space with nervous chatter about his 5-year-old son and how proud he was that he got along well with the chickens. No doubt he sensed the leftover tension from our visit and that was trying to dissipate, but instead, he was made things... Yeah. But instead, he has made things worse. Yeah. Jared listened to the man's words and smiled with a lopsided smile. I stared out the window, not sure what to make of everything. It wasn't until we were walking back to the dorms that I remembered my normal boots club jacket. I took it out of my satchel and pulled it around my shoulders, smiling as it stilled my busy mind. Yeah? Yeah? Okay, so. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Right. Jared's mother might be something that he'd have to deal with, that we'd have to deal with at some point. But right now, our lives were at Asagao Academy, with the Normal Boots Club, the Hidden Blood Club. Jared's mother would come later. We could afford to shelve her for now. I opened my eyes and found Jared with his head in his hands. Worried, I put an arm around his shoulder. Hey, Jar Jar, you okay? That is pretty much the worst, but also the best nickname. He shook his head. Don't worry, everything will be alright, somehow. How?
Well,
How? That's a good question. No, not that. How could you ever forgive me after what I just put you through? Hana, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I naively thought, but I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Struck by the tone of his voice, I began rubbing his back in panic.
what?
Jared, it's okay. It's okay, I forgive you. You didn't do anything wrong. It was all your mom.
No.
You are there too. We're all here for you. Okay. Yeah, if you need someone to talk to. I just sat there and let her say all that to you. Huh.
No.
I just sat there and let her say all that to you. No, you stood up for me, remember? You told her right in the heck of. I bet that felt good. Jared wiped his face and sat up straight again, nodding. I bit my lip. But was what happened really okay? My mother and I will probably never see eye to eye, but I think that's okay. He smiled sheepishly, taking my hand in his. Ever since meeting you, I felt so free. I never believed that anyone would like me unless I lived up to what they wanted me to be. I thought the real me wouldn't be able to measure up. Then over time I realized that I was kind of messed up. I thought that even if someone could have liked the real me, they would never like the broken me. I tried to work with it and keep people at a distance, but to be frank, being with you has shown me that that's absolutely stupid. You and the rest of Normal Boots, yes, even Paul, care about me because of who I am, not who you expect me to be like. For as much as I've messed up, you always gave me the benefit of the doubt. You like me regardless of whether I messed up, regardless of whether I was perfect. Hana, thank you. I'm so sincerely thankful to have met someone as amazing as you. I didn't really do anything. It doesn't hurt that you're crazy hot either. Jared! I smacked him on the shoulder and he laughed. Then he reached out to hold my face in his hands. You really are the most beautiful person, you know that? Oh. Stop! I'm going to melt! I'm going to cease to exist! Jared chuckled, and then drew my face to his. I barely had time to register what was happening before our lips met. In that moment, the only thing that existed for me was Jared. Time stopped as my eyes closed, and then Jared pulled away. Sorry. I know you don't like PDA, but I couldn't help it this time. No, it was fine this time. Jared laughed again and pulled me to his side. I love you, Hana. That was it. I was done. I was dead. There was no more Hana to exist. K.O. Jared pecked me on the cheek as I tried to mumble out my response, the words getting caught in my mouth. Hearing my mumblings, Jared nuzzled my neck. Don't worry, Hana. I know. Best end. I really well, that story was really good, but it was also really, really heavy. Like, I enjoyed it in some way, but it also made me really sad. I think that's it. It's heavy. We are half white, half Navajo. Huh. Do 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 do. Yeah, very hard hitting. Yeah, you might have noticed. You might have noticed that my girlfriend left right before the phone call, or during the beginning of the phone call with Jared's mother. It really hit her pretty hard as well when she played it. Oh, Navajo. But yeah, for a hard-hitting story as it was, I really enjoyed it. I guess the biggest problem with it is that things like this really happen, which shouldn't be allowed. If I'm gonna be honest, that is the worst. I'm sad we don't get to spend more time with each other. I want to spend more time with you. Yeah, that curfew is really annoying, but I can at least walk you back. I doubt I'd get in trouble for being a gentleman. Cool. Oh, Jared, ever the prince. All the best for my princess. He winked and giggled. I giggled again. Despite the fact that Jared spoke the way he did, it didn't feel the same way. Gone was the weird feeling that he was standing on stage performing for an audience of thousands, instead of simply speaking to me. When we were alone, now, it felt like we were well and truly alone. We held hands as we made it to the girls' dorm. Over time, I became lug-tight about PDA, and Jared got better at understanding what was acceptable in public. It had a rocky start, but at some point we realized we both made assumptions about what being in a relationship should be like. What Jared should and shouldn't do for me, what a good girlfriend was and what she wasn't. We held these weird ideas to the light and found that, like opaque crystals, I don't know, they blurred everything we did and we tried to look through them. After sorting things out, things got better. Of course, the truth is that things would never be truly perfect. We were very different people. Jared still had moments where he felt like he had to grandstand or when he put on a face for others, even around me. His mother still hated my guts. She tolerated me enough to keep me around. But I was sure that if Jared and I continued to date for long enough, she'd look into finding a way to get rid of me. I still had trouble articulating my feelings to him, and deciding what was something I should bring up and what wasn't. But for now, we were happy. We well and truly made each other happy. Here we are. Yep, here we are. I blushed as my hand touched the handle of my door. Mai's not supposed to be back from practice for a bit. Do you want to come in? Yeah, sure, yeah. Okay, good. Our faces as red as tomatoes. I pushed open my door and flicked on the light. Jared and I stood in the doorway, absolutely shocked. Mai patted her hair down nervously, and PBG grinned sheepishly from the floor. We were just, looking for aliens, right, Mai?
Bingo.
Yeah, we were summoning them from the bedroom floor. Yeah, because there was like an enchanting circle, and we're dating now.
Yeah.
I knew it! I so call it! Didn't I call it, Jared? You did call it. I called it! PB sheepishly rubbed the back of his neck, and Jared walked over and clapped him on the shoulder, giving him a thumbs up.
All right.
Good choice, my friend. Thanks. We should all go on a double date sometime. I smiled at Mai, who was watching PBG and Jared have an intense whispered conversation. She was smiling stupidly, clearly over the moon and stars. I don't even know what Uron is. She was smiling stupidly, clearly moving the stars. I pulled her into a hug. I'm happy for you. Took him long enough, right? Hey! We all laughed. I pulled out a copy of Permit to Ride, a board game with tiny plastic trains sprawling across the map of Europe, and the four of us played it all the way until curfew. This was my life at Asagao, and some days I couldn't believe it, but I'd never been happier. Thank you, everyone, for everything.
Asagao Academy Normal Boots Club.
Thank fucking Shane. Thank you guys all so much for watching. See you guys next time. Have a good one.